Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Friday, July 3rd, 2026, and you're listening to Alex's News. The high in Riverside on this July 3rd is 87.2 degrees with a low of 61.8. With the 4th of July falling on a Saturday this year, today is the observed federal holiday for Independence Day. We hope you are finding time to enjoy the festivities and rest today. In today's episode, we investigate the underlying circumstances regarding why the FBI chief in Chicago was forced to retire. We will also examine how a massive heat dome is casting a shadow over American holiday celebrations and the ongoing World Cup matches. Beyond these major headlines, we have plenty of other stories to cover. All of this and more coming up on Alex's News. Stay tuned. This morning, big news out of the FBI's Chicago field office. Its top agent is stepping down abruptly. Ethan, what can you tell us?
Good morning, Grace. Douglas DePodesta, the special agent in charge of the FBI's Chicago field office, is leaving his post. Multiple outlets are reporting this, including Newsday, the Boston Globe, the Chicago Tribune, and the Associated Press. According to a resignation message he sent to colleagues, his final day of service was set for Monday. It's a sudden exit that's raising a lot of questions here.
Monday, so just days ago. Do we know whether he actually wanted to leave?
That's the key detail, Grace. Several sources familiar with the situation told the Associated Press that DePodesta did not leave voluntarily. Instead, they say he was, quote, pushed, end quote, or told to retire. The FBI officially declined to comment on the matter on Thursday, so the Bureau isn't confirming the circumstances. But the people close to it are painting a very different picture than a routine retirement.
Did DePodesta himself say anything about why he's going?
He did, and his farewell note was pretty pointed. He alluded to a conflict that led to his exit, writing, quote, "I've never backed down from a fight, as long as it meant our personnel could continue serving the FBI's mission," end quote. He went on to say that stance, quote, "has proved unpopular over time, and my departure is a consequence of that," end quote. So he's clearly signaling he clashed with someone over how personnel were being treated.
That sounds like a man who feels forced out. Did he reference anyone specifically?
He did, and this part was poignant. DePodesta quoted a farewell message from former director Chris Wray. Wray had urged staff to stay true to the Bureau's core values of, quote, fidelity, bravery, and integrity, end quote. By invoking the previous leadership, DePodesta seemed to be drawing a contrast with how things are being run now. It reads almost like a subtle rebuke of the current direction at the FBI.
Let's talk about that current direction. Is this departure an isolated case?
It doesn't appear to be, Grace. Reports from the Boston Globe and Newsday framed DePodesta's exit as part of what they call a broader upheaval, and even a purge within the FBI's workforce. Current Director Kash Patel has reportedly sought to force out both line agents and supervisors. The people being pushed out are those perceived as not supporting the agenda of the Trump administration. So DePodesta may be one of many caught up in this shakeup.
Has the FBI itself said anything publicly about these changes?
It has, and it was strikingly blunt. The Bureau's Rapid Response account on X, formerly Twitter, weighed in on a separate post about DePodesta's departure. The account stated, quote, "It's simple. Anyone who is not on board with this FBI under the leadership of President Trump, which has achieved the lowest murder rate ever, is free to leave," end quote. So rather than downplay the exits, the Bureau is essentially embracing them publicly.
That's a remarkable statement from an official account. What's the mood like in Chicago right now?
It's a turbulent time for law enforcement there, Grace. DePodesta's departure comes amid significant instability in the Chicago law enforcement community. The Boston Globe and Newsday noted that top federal prosecutor Andrew Boutros recently described a sweeping review of more than 1,000 grand jury presentations by Illinois prosecutors. That review was triggered by the dismissal of a high-profile case involving misconduct. So the region's federal law enforcement is under a lot of scrutiny from several directions at once.
More than 1,000 grand jury presentations. That's an enormous review. Does it connect directly to DePodesta?
There's no reporting that ties DePodesta personally to that review, Grace, but it helps explain the atmosphere he's leaving behind. When prosecutors are re-examining that many cases after a misconduct dismissal, it signals real uncertainty across the system. His exit lands right in the middle of that pressure. So even if the two aren't linked, they paint a picture of a Chicago office under stress.
Tell us more about DePodesta himself. He wasn't new to the Bureau, was he?
Not at all. He's a longtime veteran of the FBI. He joined the Bureau in Chicago back in 2002, where he initially worked in drug investigations. So this is really where his career began, which adds a personal dimension to his departure. He's leaving the same office where he got his start more than 2 decades ago.
And how did he rise to lead that office?
He climbed steadily through senior roles over the years. Before being named the top agent in Chicago in August of 2024, DePodesta held various senior positions at FBI headquarters in Washington. He also served in Detroit and Memphis along the way, so he brought a broad national perspective back to the city where he began. He'd only been in the top Chicago job for less than 2 years when this happened.
Less than 2 years in the role. That's a short tenure for such a senior post.
It really is, Grace. Being named special agent in charge in August of 2024 and departing this week means he served nearly 2 years. For a position of that stature, that's remarkably brief. It reinforces what those sources told the Associated Press about this not being his choice. A veteran of his standing typically doesn't walk away from a top field office that quickly on his own.
Given everything you've described, what should we watch for next?
I'd keep an eye on who replaces him and how the Bureau frames that transition. Given the reporting from the Boston Globe and Newsday about a broader purge, DePodesta's exit may not be the last high-profile departure. It's also worth watching whether other agents or supervisors speak out the way he did in his farewell note. And of course, that review of more than 1,000 grand jury presentations will keep Chicago's federal law enforcement in the spotlight.
Before we let you go, remind us why this particular exit matters beyond Chicago.
It matters because DePodesta isn't just any official, Grace. He ran one of the FBI's most important field offices, and sources say he was pushed out rather than leaving willingly. His farewell openly tied his departure to a fight over protecting personnel and staying true to the Bureau's values. When you combine that with Director Kash Patel's reported effort to remove those seen as out of step with the administration, it speaks to a much larger struggle over the FBI's direction. That's why outlets from Newsday to the Associated Press are all covering it closely.
Ethan, thank you for walking us through all of it this morning.
My pleasure, Grace. We'll keep following the story as it develops.
We've been tracking that dangerous heat dome all week, and today it's colliding with two of the biggest events on the calendar. For the latest, we're joined by reporter Chloe. Chloe, good morning.
Good morning, Grace. So as we reported yesterday, that high-pressure system is still trapping heat and humidity across the central and eastern United States. What's new today is that it's now spilling into southern parts of Canada, too. And the timing couldn't be worse. This is landing right on top of the country's 250th anniversary celebrations and the ongoing 2026 World Cup.
Let's start with the science. Are researchers saying this heat is connected to climate change?
They're being unusually blunt about it, Grace. According to The Guardian, researchers from World Weather Attribution and Imperial College London concluded this heat would have been, quote, virtually impossible, end quote, without the climate crisis. One extreme weather researcher, Theodore Keeping, put it plainly. He said the climate we live in now is fundamentally different from the one that existed when the Declaration of Independence was signed. It's a striking comparison, given what we're celebrating this weekend.
That's a powerful way to frame it. Did they put any numbers behind that claim?
They did, and the numbers are pretty stark. The analysis found that heat waves like this now happen roughly once every 200 years, and that's because of fossil fuel-driven emissions. But here's the key part. Had the planet not warmed by 1.4 degrees Celsius or 2.5 degrees Fahrenheit, an event like this wouldn't have been expected even once in many thousands of years. So this is not normal summer weather. It's something the warming climate essentially manufactured.
Did any of the scientists offer a warning about what comes next?
Yes. Friederike Otto, a professor of climate science, called this event an, quote, urgent warning, end quote. She said the world must immediately begin a swift drawdown of greenhouse gas pollution to limit further impacts on everyday life. And that's really the through line here, Grace. These researchers aren't just describing a hot week. They're saying this is a preview of what becomes routine if emissions keep climbing.
Let's bring it back to the forecast. Just how hot are we talking today and tomorrow?
It's extreme. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and the National Weather Service say the eastern third of the country will run 10 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit above average. When you factor in humidity, the heat index, that feels like temperature, is forecast between 105 and 115 degrees. That's across the mid-Atlantic, the southeast, and the mid-south. At those levels, your body simply can't cool itself the way it normally would.
I understand records have already been falling. Which cities got hit hardest?
A whole string of them, Grace, and some of these records had stood for more than a century. As of July 2nd, Washington National Airport reached 102 degrees, breaking a record from 1898. Boston hit 101, topping a mark from 1963. Newark climbed to 104, beating a 1966 record. Philadelphia tied its 1901 record at 103 degrees.
And New York?
New York Central Park tied its 1966 record at 100 degrees. What stands out there is that it was the first triple-digit reading in 14 years. So for a lot of folks in the city, this is the hottest they've felt in well over a decade. And these aren't isolated spikes. They're part of that same trapped dome of heat sitting over the region.
So what does that mean for tomorrow, the 4th of July itself?
Tomorrow could be historic, and not in a good way. Washington, D.C. is forecast to see its hottest Independence Day on record at 103 degrees. Philadelphia, Charlotte, and much of the Deep South are looking at highs in the upper 90s to 100. Now, out west, it's a very different picture. NOAA notes that from coastal California through the Pacific Northwest, temperatures are more typical for summer, though there are still fire weather concerns in the Four Corners region.
With heat like that, I imagine the anniversary celebrations are being affected. What's changed?
They're being reshaped in real time. The extreme heat has already forced the cancellation of several events in Philadelphia, including the Salute to Independence Parade. Other activities are hanging in the balance too. We're talking ship flotillas, outdoor concerts, and even a public reading of the Declaration of Independence in Boston. When the heat threatens a reading of the founding document on the 250th anniversary, you really grasp the scale of this.
Are officials putting safety measures in place to protect people?
They are, and pretty aggressively. In Philadelphia, an extreme heat warning is in effect through July 4th. In Delaware, the Department of Health and Social Services opened cooling centers, including the Shipley State Service Center, and those ran from July 1st through 3rd. And in Washington, D.C., U.S. Park Police have been handing out water to children on the National Mall. Forecasters are describing this as a major to extreme heat risk, which is about as serious as that scale gets.
You mentioned the World Cup earlier. How is the heat affecting the tournament?
This is where it gets complicated, Grace. Several host cities have open-air stadiums, places like Kansas City, Boston, and Philadelphia, and those offer no relief from the sun. The concern is most acute in Philadelphia. There's a last 16 match between France and Paraguay tomorrow, on July 4th, and it's expected to reach levels of extreme heat that a global players' union has previously said should trigger a postponement or a delay.
Has FIFA actually moved that match or changed the kickoff time?
No official change has been made to the kickoff by FIFA at this point, but there are adjustments happening around the edges. The Philadelphia FIFA Fan Festival has shifted its hours and canceled some afternoon broadcasts to protect fans from the worst of the afternoon heat. And it's not just Philadelphia. In Miami, there's a match between Argentina and Cape Verde scheduled for today, July 3rd, and that one's expected to be played in potentially dangerous humidity and heat as well.
So players and fans are both facing real risk. Is anyone weighing player safety against the schedule?
That's exactly the tension. the players' union guidance that Philadelphia's match may cross is designed around player health, things like the risk of heat illness on the field, but moving a World Cup match is enormously disruptive, so you can see why FIFA is holding firm for now. The compromise, at least so far, has been protecting fans through the festival changes while leaving the games themselves in place. It's a situation worth watching closely today and tomorrow.
Beyond the heat, are there other weather threats people should keep in mind for the 4th?
Yes, and this is easy to overlook. NOAA is warning that afternoon and evening thunderstorms could disrupt outdoor cookouts and fireworks on the 4th. There's a cold front expected to trigger thunderstorms across the Great Lakes, the Northern Plains, and the Midwest on Friday and Saturday, and some of those could turn severe. So even away from the extreme heat, holiday plans may get scrambled by storms.
Is there any relief in that cold front, at least?
There is, and it's the first bit of good news I can offer. That same front is expected to push cooler temperatures into the eastern United States by Monday. So the sweltering conditions we're seeing today should finally break as we get past the holiday weekend. The catch is that the West may then start warming up later in July, which we flagged in our earlier coverage. For now, though, the East just needs to get through the next few dangerous days.
Great information, and a lot for people to keep in mind this holiday. Chloe, thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Stay cool and stay hydrated out there.
Here are some other headlines. First up, we have some legal drama that is truly costing a fortune. The Supreme Court has decided not to step in and stop an $800 a day fine against former Fox News reporter Catherine Herridge. She is currently in the doghouse for civil contempt after refusing to spill the beans on her confidential sources. This whole mess stems from a lawsuit filed by Chinese-American scientist Yanping Chen against the FBI and Justice Department regarding leaked info from a 6-year probe that ended without charges. Herridge had previously published a series on Chen's ties to the Chinese military. While Justice Brett Kavanaugh wanted to put a pause on the penalties, Chief Justice John Roberts and the rest of the court didn't buy it. District Judge Christopher Cooper ruled that Chen's need to know outweighed the reporter's right to stay silent. Fox News says they are disappointed and will keep fighting for First Amendment principles, but for now, the fines are just continuing to pile up. Talk about a costly secret. Moving over to the pharmacy, the Trump administration is trying to put a cap on the cost of care. A new proposed rule aims to stop hospitals from marking up discounted drugs for Medicare patients. By tweaking the reimbursement formula for hospitals in the 340B program, the government hopes to save Medicare patients $1.1 billion next year. One White House official says this could save $20 billion over 10 years, with the average older adult saving $800 a year in copayments. However, the American Hospital Association is not swallowing this pill, warning that these cuts could undermine essential services. If the rule gets the green light, it will take effect at the start of next year. Finally, we head overseas to Lebanon, where things are getting quite tense. A report from Dropsite News features expert Amal Saad discussing a framework between Beirut and Israel, which some are calling Lebanon's surrender agreement. However, the deal seems to be hitting a wall. Reports indicate the agreement has not been approved by the majority of the Lebanese government, and only one faction of the Maronites is on board. Critics argue the deal has no legal standing and warn that surrendering arms could lead to a massacre in South Lebanon by the IDF or the Lebanese army. It seems this diplomatic deal is currently dead in the water. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Opus 4.8, Gemini Pro 3.1, Gemini Flash 3, and Google Cloud Text-to-Speech. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.